Ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering what's the exclusive topic, what's that context, if you haven't yet checked the agenda, then I must share that our next speaker, of course, who has virtually flown the skies, is going to talk about the role of employee engagement in enhancing, of course, the customer engagement, so as to say. Allow me to warmly welcome Neil Gardner, the Chief Customer Officer Asia from Generali. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Shika, and I'm very honored to be speaking to you all today. I apologize that this is not in person, but obviously with the current conditions, I'm coming to you live from Hong Kong. Before I get into the meat of the conversation, just a quick introduction in case you don't know who Generali is. We are one of the major global insurance companies. We are headquartered out of Milan, Italy, $70 billion of premium. The reality is we are a very large, very legacy insurance company serving many markets around the world, but in Asia specifically, we have footprint in 8 markets, including, of course, our relationship with Future Group and our joint venture, Future Generali General Insurance and Future Generali Life Insurance in the India market. I'm the Chief Customer Officer. I'm very privileged to hold that position. And I actually have a balance of a responsibility between marketing, but also for operations. And as my boss says, the benefit of that is that he only has one neck to squeeze when something goes wrong from a customer point of view. He only ever looks towards me. So what I'm going to just talk to you on very briefly here, because I've only got 15 minutes and this is a 30-minute presentation, so I will skip through it fairly briefly, is really how we've taken our employees, brought them into the heart of our customer experience strategy, but also how we've elevated customer experience to be our business strategy. And that, I think, is the crux of certainly what I was listening to the last panel, some of the challenges that we all know that we face. I think Generali has done a fairly good job of implanting CX at a very, very senior level. And this goes back to November the 21st in 2018. We do a 3-year annual strategy cycle. And our CEO, our group CEO, Mr. Donnet, said that our ambition is to become a lifetime partner to our customers, offering innovative, personalized solutions thanks to an unmatched distribution network. This was the first time that we'd really mentioned customers in our overall group strategy. And not only was it about the importance of a customer and keeping that customer for as long as possible, but it also reflected that our agent network, and typically in our organization, we use an intermediated distribution. And so the agents play a critical role in that customer experience. And they are, of course, for the most part, employees. So really this was reinforcing how important both the customer was and how important our agents were in being able for us to deliver the strategy. And CX, now I really like what I heard in the last session. CX isn't just about the customer, certainly not from my opinion. I know when we think about, generally when we talk about customer experience, we obviously think about what does the customer go through? What is that customer experience? The I experience ... Well, you also have to think about prospects, because this is where the journey and this is where the promise starts. This is where the prospect has to believe that I'm going to get a great customer experience. So you can't just sit there and say customer experience starts day one when the customer becomes a customer. Customer experience starts before that. It really does start with your prospects and with your advertising and with your brand promise. But actually closer to home, what is the most important, in my opinion, is actually what happens with your employees. How your employees behave, how they act, has a direct influence on that customer experience. Certainly for ourselves, we're an insurance company. We are in a service industry. Our products are tangential, shall we say. They are not physical. And so the experience that we give, the service that we give, is critical to the success of having long-term lifetime partnerships with our customers. So from my point of view, when I think about ourselves and the corporation, and we think outwards to the customer, I know a lot of people say that the customer is in the middle. Well, for me, the nearest circle that touches on customers, obviously, for me, is our employees. And that's why I think the employee engagement and how you manage your employee force is critical to the success of your CX strategy. So let me tell you a little more about how we have done that. And for us, it's about setting the right expectations and creating the right behaviors. You know, Richard Branson said that clients do not come first, your employees come first. And if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients. And again, in the insurance category, that is absolutely critical. The relationship that a client has with their insurance agent is one of the most solid relationships you can have. There's a huge amount of trust. There's a lot of financial information that is passing. And so we have to make sure that our employees act in the right way when it comes to dealing with their clients. And previously, before 2018, we had this rather cumbersome competency model. So we had the 4 values in the middle: deliver the promise, value our people, be open, and live the community. Those haven't changed. But we had 10 competencies. We expected all of our employees to live up to 10 different competency behaviors. Quite honestly, nobody lived up to all 10. It was very, very difficult to do, and it was quite complicated as a message to get across. So what did we do? Obviously, we simplified. We came out with 4 brand new behaviors that are all focused around the customer: ownership, human touch, simplification, and innovation. And I'll talk to you about how that's also become part of our brand strategy. But for me, these come into if you think about the page, into 2 halves. On the left hand, it's all about your actions with people. It's about ownership, it's about being proactive, and it's about showing empathy. And on the right hand side, it's a little bit more of an innovation, a bit more of a process driven behaviors. So we want to simplify, ultimately to make things better for the customer, but also we want to innovate. So we have this now much more simpler behavior model where people are much clearer on what it is that they're expected to do and how they're expected to behave. But then when you think about the customers, and we've heard a lot of it today, when we think about how you manage that customer experience, obviously what we're doing is we're listening to the customer through CX, but we're also building at the same time. And, you know, Bill Gates said that your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. And I truly believe that we should be listening, because even though we have this wonderful employee force, and across the world we have well over 75,000 employees, we still need to have that ability to measure the strength of that relationship. And of course, what we did is we actually started to try and define a structured brand experience, a structured CX experience in every single market around the world. And by doing that, what we did is we created what we called hallmarks. Hallmarks are effectively the blueprint. And so here we have 4 hallmarks on the customer side and 4 hallmarks on the agent side. And if you remember back to what Mr. Donnet said, he wanted to build a lifetime partnership with our customers through our agents. And so you can see here in our customer experience hallmarks, you can see that a human and caring experience is one of the 4 predefined hallmarks that we want to have. And so you can see there that the attitude and the behavior of our employees is, again, even front and center when you talk about your CX. We are leveraging the human and caring experience. Insurance is a very emotive subject, and giving customers that human and caring experience is critical to the success. And you'll see there on the distributor side, needs-based advisory is very much about listening to customers. So again, not only are we saying that our employees and their behaviors are critical, and we measure and we define what they should do, but then when it comes to the brand experience, when it comes to the customer experience, we are putting the actions of our employees front and center within the branded customer experience. And these hallmarks that we have created are consistent in every market that we have around the world. We brought in a new metric, which we call RMPS. So obviously, and I'll touch on in a minute, we have TMPS, which is bottom up. RMPS is top down. And the beauty of this is it's our way to compare. The problem with many of us have with TMPS is it's very internal. We don't understand how well our competitors are doing. With our NPS, we go and ask, and in a blind survey, we ask people how good is the experience with us. We've broken it down into 3 main drivers, which drives that NPS. Obviously, the experience they have is critical. Of the product that they have can obviously have play a large role in their experience, and also the emotional connectivity to the brand. So we have this top-down competitive benchmark. What's really interesting about it is its perception. And for the most part, it is people's belief of what they think our experience is versus somebody else's. And you'll see in the emotional connection to the brand, very much it is about what our agents and what our employees do in order to drive that relationship. We have TMPS, we use Medallia, it's bottom up, it's fantastic for learning, but it doesn't, and it helps you identify how well we're doing at delivering those hallmarks. So here what you can see when we look at this is when you think about the hallmarks that we've created and the behaviors that we have for the employees, they really start to line up. You can see, as I said, that we have the emotive parts of our behavior. We have ownership and we have human touch. And then in the hallmarks, we have human and caring experience, and we have B1 language. B1 language is about simplification and making it easier to understand, because insurance can be complicated. And then obviously we're talking about how we improve our processes and the interaction. So what we've tried to do is try and improve the CX and structure the CX, but also influence the employee activities and behaviors at the same time, and bring them into the experience of our customers. So there's how I see the influence of the employees on the customer experience. Well, that's only part of the story, because of course we have our prospects, and the idea is what we don't want to make promises that we can't deliver. And so if you're going to have this amazing customer experience and you're going to talk about the value that employees give to that experience, you have to project it out, and you have to have it as a mainstream of your advertising, because obviously that's when you start to build that promise. And as Seth Godin said quite eloquently, marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, it's about the stories that you tell. And the problem that we had way back when, before 2018, is our story was very transactional. It was very about simplicity. It was about innovation, but there was no empathy. There was no care. We had not referenced the fact that we felt our employees were the differentiator within our advertising. We didn't treat people as customers. Well, we did, but we didn't talk about the fact that we didn't do that. And so the brand message had to change at the same time. We had to move from being transactional and to I need insurance into a business that advertises about our lifetime partner, that we're proactive, that we have this relationship. And so again, what we wanted to do was bring the employee into actually our advertising. And what we had is we created, call this Reditude. So that stands for red, which is our company color, and our attitude. And so we brought these two things together. I'm not going to read it, but what we actually did is start to say the basis of our advertising has to be about the people that we are. And the people that we are defined by our behaviors. And so again, we're taking the work that our employees do and putting it front and center now, not only in our customer experience, but now in our brand promise, to bring people in to say, if you come to us, our employees are the difference, and you will have a different insurance experience. Now, the reality is when you have 50 plus markets is that the marketing story was quite fragmented, and this is what we had to do. We had to bring a new brand manifesto in. We had to align globally around single advertising. We brought in a global tagline. We moved to one agency. This shift that we were doing, this bringing CX, and they referenced it earlier in the previous session, we were given this ability because our CEO had set the mandate, that he said this was important. And so our group chief marketing officer took the mandate to say, okay, if we're going to do this, the brand experience that we want to promote should be the same around the world. So we ended up moving all of our agencies around the world. Our creative agencies have moved to a single agency, and they even put some global funding behind this. And that was obviously critical as well, because in my business, in a federated model, the power is where the money is. And so group were able to bring money to the table to help bring this standardization, because we really wanted to tell the story of lifetime partner and tell it consistently around the world. And we even came up with a new tagline, we're all about you. And of course, that we references Generali, but it also references our employees. And this is our mantra about, we are here to serve you, the customer. So we're all about you has rolled out in the last 2 years across all of our main markets. So I'm doing pretty well on time. So just some key takeaways. So our employee actions are critical to the success of your brand. Obviously, what we've done is we've taken what's on the right-hand side of the screen. We've taken these employee behaviors and we've started to benchmark and put them in our brand experience in order to define that customer experience, to have the consistency and the standardization. But then we've taken it a step further. We've taken the employee attitude based on those behaviors, tried to empathize and improve our brand story to be more empathetic, to get rid of being a cold insurance company, to start putting the attitude of our employees, our readitude within our brand promise. So then when you think about it now from a total brand experience, we have full alignment. Our messaging in advertising talks about our attitude. Our experience has within it human and caring experience as one of the key traits of how we define our brand experience. And that allows us to manage and have a single unified total brand experience in all of our markets. You can't manage what you don't measure. And so obviously we still have our metrics in prospects. We think about preference. Customers, we have TNPS, which is reality. That is the experience they have. Our NPS is perception, because it's where they compare you with others. But that's really good for understanding, because sometimes perception becomes reality. On the employee side, as I said, we've got new behaviors. We've also moved to a new continuous assessment process. So instead of doing 6 monthly reviews, annual review and a half-year review, we're now expected to have continual assessments so that we continually reinforce the behaviors that we have. And then obviously from a financial point of view, when it comes to CX, in my opinion, there's no better measure than retention. If you're not keeping customers because they want to leave and go somewhere else, then in my opinion, you're letting them down somewhere, and it's more than likely to do with CX. So some final quick thoughts of mine. Being customer focused is a never ending journey. Unfortunately, there is no destination. We can never say we've finished, because every time that we raise the bar and deliver better experience, customers' perception is that they want to get more. And so that continual evolution will be with us forever. The actions of your employees deliver the brand experience. They can also destroy the brand experience and the brand promise. And that's why, in my opinion, you really need to structure exactly how you expect your employees to behave. Because if they go off script, it can unravel all of the hard work. We all know that when it comes to a brand, the brand can be destroyed so much more quicker than it takes to build. And in our industry, our employees are crucial to that. It's really important to align the promises you make in your advertising, the experiences that your customers go through, and the behaviors of your employees for that force multiplier. You can, of course, do each of them on their own. You can create a brand promise, and you can let a customer down when they come in. You can have a great experience planned, but if you don't have the employees knowing how to act, it won't work. So you really need to align those three things together in order to have the best opportunity for CX to be successful. Set some big, simple goals with micro targets. As I said, we've got 5 metrics that we track. Pretty much that's it from a CX point of view. Obviously, we have much smaller, more micro targets, but we try to focus on the big numbers. And if I can leave you with obviously one other message, what is critical is demonstrating the link between CX and business benefit. It is there. Happy customers are more loyal customers. More loyal customers, typically in insurance, are more profitable customers. You need to be able to get to a point where you can prove that, because quite often, as the previous speaker says, CX has been forgotten about. It's now front and center. It's now the important child at the table in the boardroom, because lifetime partner loyalty with your customers is critical to the success of a business. That's my speech for today. Thank you very much for listening to me. It was quick, I'm sorry, but hopefully you all learned some insights into what we're trying to do at Generali. Thank you very much.
Neil, thank you very much for speaking to us. And of course, all the more gratitude. Of course, you talked about the human touch, the life and the spirit being the guiding forces. And of course, it starts with the employees. Thank you very much for joining us. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, of course, I'm going to quickly invite you all to join us right back into this plenary session for the next one that's coming up. We'll be right back.